Imagine a world with no cold calling. A world where companies don't sell your data to other companies who want to pester you. At G4 Claims, we don't cold call and we don't buy a single lead from data companies. Oh, and if you're due any compensation from your car accident, you pay nothing to us at all. For full accident management support, including motor replacement, repairs and personal injury compensation claims, just search G4 Claims today. For help the way you want it.
Hi and welcome to this week's episode of the DW podcast. I am joined by one of Scotland's most influential women.
Oh,
I'm going to big you up from the start.
Oh,
I believe that was in the papers last year.
Yeah, that was, when was that? A couple of years. Stuff like that. I still always get overwhelmed. I'm always like, what? What do you mean?
That's amazing. So yeah, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you. So I am Julie. I own Julie's Kopitiam in the Southside, which is a kind of small Malaysian cafe, and it's just got, 15 seats when it isn't COVID times, but we're just open for takeaway just now. And I opened that about 3 years ago in December. So it's not old, but also not new.
How's it been going? This must be a challenging time for many, but it seems like you have cruised through it.
Yeah, it's been, do you know what? It's been a bit mad, to say the least. I'll never kind of forget that first week of when everyone was finding out about lockdown. And nobody just knew what to do. Everyone was just a bit like, okay, are we going to close? Are we going to get furlough kind of thing? And that feels like a lifetime ago now kind of thing. But it's just been, I feel like I can't really complain because we've actually had it so much better than some other places, like kind of more fancy restaurants and hotels. We've been able to kind of adapt and do takeaway and street food because the food kind of lends itself really well to that. So in terms of that, I feel like I can't complain very much. I guess I'm kind of just sympathising with everyone who maybe is the same as us, have had to change business models quite a lot. So you're going from having even just silly things like having all your plates in the restaurant to not having them there, to then trying to find space for all your takeaway things. And it's just all the small things that it's not again, that's not going to bring it back, but I think everyone's just constantly working to make sure that you're ahead of the next lockdown rule or the next kind of thing that's going on. So yeah, in terms of that, I can't complain, but it has been a kind of a testing time in terms of just challenging yourself to be creative, I would say.
Of course, it's funny because you see things online and it looks like some people in hospitality are really, really struggling and others are thriving. We're filming this again in Scran and the East End and this place has been absolutely packed, and
totally.
Takeaways have been rushed out the door, but it seems like yours have been pretty similar.
Yeah, same actually. I guess similar to Scran as well. It's if you've got, I guess, maybe fine dining, you're not going to have that kind of food travelling well in a cardboard box. Yeah. Whereas the food that we do, I guess, and same with Scran, it kind of does travel quite well. So I guess it's meaning that we are eating a bit more casually this year, I think, without actually, not really thought about that up until right now, but I think the whole world's probably eating a bit more casually because you're not having these kind of, I guess, white linen, fancy kind of tablecloth dinners. But for us, it's just been a case of, again, you just kind of figure it out day by day. And that's been kind of nice. But I think one of the things I've noticed actually is that you do have a really nice following of customers. Customers have been amazing. We've never had this amount of kind of positive reviews. And you can almost feel that it's from people kind of trying to big up businesses and just being really supportive kind of thing. So that kind of goodness of the general public and your customers is quite heartwarming as well. And I'm sure places like Scran here kind of thing will see that too. And it's just one of those moments where you're like, oh, there's a lot of good out there. Kind of, yeah, totally.
I think there's been a lot of focus on that roundabout lockdown. Don't get me wrong, people have been stuck indoors, but there's been a lot of focus, certainly on Instagram and social media, about, shop local, let's get into these local businesses and local shops and really help them out.
Totally.
But on the other hand, I feel that get into another lockdown, it seems to be the big supermarkets or places like Amazon that really benefit from them, that they're closing a lot of small businesses down, and that's all that you're left with.
Exactly. And I think we always talk about things like eating locally, about growing your own produce and eating stuff that's around us. Lockdown has obviously had its hardships, and the coronavirus has had a huge amount of hardships that I wouldn't even begin to start listing. But as we were talking about earlier, I feel like it's been quite important to just keep your head on all the little things that have been going on. So Like even just things like there's lots of places changing what they do. And I think the one thing I was thinking about today actually is this is quite like a unique time to try lots of businesses doing different things, because you've got these like at home kits, and you've got like, I guess, just different types of food on the menu. Like there's like fine dining restaurants that I was looking at, one in Copenhagen that was amazing. I remember going there back in the day, and when everything was fine and okay, and for the wee kind of treat meal when you're on holiday. And they're just doing this amazing fried chicken now. Okay. And like, I think like...
Was it a fried chicken restaurant?
No, it was like a really like... It was one of those kind of like uber sustainable, amazing kind of Scandinavian style places that everything was grown locally, and it was just like, it was amazing. It was one of the best meals I've ever had.
And they've let their hair down almost.
They've let their hair down, but they now look like they're doing amazing kind of like organic fried chicken. Really? And I bet you that would be absolutely amazing. Like I'm sure, I just think in a way, like of course, people are struggling, but I'd quite like to see this. And almost like, I guess, put out the message to be like, this is quite interesting for people who are really into food. Like you're seeing businesses adapt to loads and like stuff that you would never be able to do in the house. Like you would never cook a kind of at-home meal from the likes of like Ox and Finch or Kapow or anything like that. So I do think it's great.
They're giving people the step-to-step guides as well. You know, it's not like, here's the food, go and do it.
Totally. And you're getting like just a change of, I guess, kind of ethos with it. And people, I think, I kind of predict after lockdown, like, I'm sure everyone, myself included, will have the time of going to pubs and going to restaurants and probably drinking loads of wine and having a great time. But I also think it might instill in people like a bit more of a kind of slower life pace of like kind of, I guess, enjoying things a bit more, sitting down a bit more. I was even talking to a friend who's got a pub, and just maybe even things like you won't be kind of rushed up to the bar to like queue for pints. Maybe people will be sitting down a bit more. I think so. I think there'll be a couple of new things that'll kind of stay with the effects of lockdown.
I really hope that's the case, because I feel that, you know, this time when a lot of people have been stuck at home, they've really appreciated, you know, being able to switch off a bit more, or that more relaxed pace. You look at businesses where people are working in offices, and a lot of them are closing their offices and saying, you know what, work from home, if it gives you a better work-life balance, then why not?
Totally. And then you're seeing things like, I mean, I brushed past an article the other day, and it was something like European leaders were like really interested in instilling the 4-day working week. So there's lots of things. Of course, there's loads of negative things from this, and I think we'll have to deal with quite a lot of mental health issues at the outcome of this. But for just now, as much as possible, myself personally, I'm trying to be like, right, okay, 4-day working week, get to cook some fancy food in the house. That's quite nice kind of thing. So just trying to keep positive where you can.
Why not? If you can do it in 4 days, why would you not? And don't get me wrong, I am not saying that everywhere I've worked I can do it in 4 days, but listen, a lot of people switch off on a Friday afternoon anyway. So why not just work from home, you know, or why not just give them that extra day?
Because I think, I mean, we've got the chefs in the Kopitiam, they have pretty much always, maybe other than the beginning, have been kind of on 4-day working weeks, and it just makes such a difference to your mental health, because I mean, I guess especially for chefs, you do work long hours. Sometimes it's 12-hour shifts. You're on your feet a lot. It's kind of like quite a physically demanding job. So I feel like for myself anyway, when I had that, it's like 1 day of rest, and then you've got 2 days to kind of go and socialise and see friends. And I think it just has such a big impact on mental health as well, because you do have a bit of time to relax. And then you're going to go and see pals, do whatever kind of life admin you have to do to keep on top of. So yeah, I think that'll be one of the nice things to come out of lockdown.
Julie, you've led me on to a really obvious question. You know, you said there that it's a stressful job.
Yeah.
Why do it? You know, like what brought you into this? What was your early experiences of cooking, and why did you want to do it as a job?
It was, I actually never ever planned to be a chef. I just didn't even think about it. I think sometimes my brain works quite slowly in ways like that. I'm learning.
Because I will be honest, like I am terrible at cooking, and the thought of being a chef, I'm like, no chance.
I mean, it is. I think also you see those kind of like, and it is a stressful job. It's like you're just constantly around dangerous things. You're around really hot things. You're around sharp things. You have to move at quite a quick pace. Things break all the time, so you have to be quite like good at adapting kind of thing. But for me, I think that the whole reason that I started was because, I mean, obviously I learnt loads from my mum, and she's got quite a love of cooking. And I think from a young age, I would watch her, like food was almost like the kind of catalyst that would like bring social gatherings together. So like for me, the kind of like nice feeling of like having friends round and cooking them a dinner, like I love that so much. I never get tired of it. Doing
There's
holiday.
something very rewarding about it as well, isn't there?
Yeah, totally. I just never get tired of it. So I think that idea kind of expanded, and then I knew that I wanted to have somewhere that was quite small, that was quite personal. So we found the Kopitiam after Cafe Strange Brew were in there. And Laurie, actually, she was the first person who taught me how to do chefing. She owns Cafe Strange Brew, and it was great to learn from her kind of thing, because she's got such a hard work ethic, and it's just quite an inspirational kind of thing to be around. You're all just felt like, wow, you can do a lot here kind of thing. So then that led to opening the restaurant. So I don't actually remember a point in my life before any of this where I went, I want to open a restaurant. It just started with a street food stall. And then we went to kind of location to location doing street food. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I think maybe we can graduate to having a proper restaurant, to having people sit in. And that was quite a nice feeling. And just, and it not being like a big, massive kind of operation was quite nice, that it's somewhere where I could like cook and still see the customers kind of thing. And nothing that was too kind of back of house, front of house kind of thing. So it's an open kitchen in the Kopitiam as well, which is quite nice. So I think, in saying that, it is quite stressful, but I think there is this new wave, especially in Glasgow, of like young kind of people opening cafes, opening bars, opening restaurants, and I think there's a bit of like a kind of movement of people wanting like a good work-life balance, wanting to bring like a new kind of scene, I guess, to the Glasgow food. And I feel like, I don't know if this is just maybe a bit silly of me to say because of my time, but I feel like from growing up to now, as of the past maybe 5 or 6 years, there's just been this like exponential growth of kind of food quality in Glasgow.
It seems like it's come out of nowhere.
Totally. And not that there wasn't before, so I don't want to insult anyone who's listening.
But no, I think you're right. I think that the food scene in Glasgow is just shot off, and it's all good quality. There's so many places across, And
there's so many like different cuisines. So I think people have got a real interest for, I guess you've got like, do you know what I've seen? There's so many great falafel places recently. I've noticed this. I tried
one out in the West End. Is it Mr. Falafel?
It's great, isn't it?
I went with my girlfriend and it was really nice.
It's amazing.
Right?
And that's in the car park of a supermarket.
It's just like, it's almost garage. Like a burger van type thing that looks really cool.
Totally. And you kind of like, I think being like the Scottish people that we are, you always hear about these cool things happening in America and like parking lots and stuff like that, but actually I was like, oh wait, this is happening in our city now. That's quite good. So again, I think you're just seeing there's so much like exciting stuff happening, and lots of people engaged with cooking, and lots of people engaged with like, I guess, the ethos of small businesses, especially in food as well. Which has been really nice.
It seems like there's a great community there as well. He's all support each other and he's look out for each other rather than it being, very cutthroat.
Totally. And I think Glasgow is such a small place, and again, it does thrive on the people kind of thing. And like, I just think supporting other businesses and going to go and see what everyone's doing, and it's quite inspiring. Like, I mean, just even coming to Scran, like seeing the size of it kind of thing, I was like, oh, this is like our
It's funny when you came in and you were talking to Chris as the chef here, and I was like, they two are absolutely fantasising over this kitchen, and it's like, oh my god, what is going on?
You get this thing as a chef where you're like, well, that's nice, but let me see your kitchen.
That was almost the first question, wasn't it?
And I'm going to say I have such wee man syndrome, because I get so jealous because my kitchen is so small in the Kopitiam. It's like the size of a cupboard, and the kitchen in here is great. I can confirm. So.
For those that are sitting at home and listening or watching, what is Malaysian street food?
So Malaysian street food is a kind of amalgamation of lots of different types of cuisines. So I guess I always think that food and politics are quite intertwined.
Sure.
And I've got this maybe especially so from Malaysia. And Malaysia's had lots of movement in its history, so it's had lots of colonisation, which, not to celebrate it, but it's definitely changed the food path kind of thing. So there's like Indian Malaysian food, there's Portuguese Malaysian food, there's Nonya, which is Chinese Malay, which is where my family come from. They're all Chinese Malay, and it's just such like a wide variation, so I never get bored of it, because if you've had, I don't know, too much of one spice, you can kind of move on to another part of it. So the street food aspect is kind of so important. They even have this like, just everything with food in Malaysia is so important. Even like if I was to bump into you in the street and if I was to say like, hey Derek, how are you? I wouldn't do that in Malaysia. I'd come up to you and say, hey Derek, have you eaten yet? And if you said no, I'd be like, oh, do you want to go and get like something from the street food van kind of thing. So that's just part of the kind of opening rhetoric for everyone.
Brilliant.
And even like the street food stalls, the food is so cheap, and I guess produce is a lot cheaper. Labour again, which is a bit cheaper there too, which is obviously a bit of an issue. But I think it comes with a culture of everyone eating out so much. You even get quite, I'm not sure, I just remember the last time I was there, my aunt talking about all these kind of high-rise modern flats that are being built without kitchens, or maybe just like a small kind of kitchenette thing, because people just eat out so much. So you go
really interesting.
Totally. It's like just part of it, because the kind of cost of it is so low. I guess people are selling lots more than you would here kind of thing. So you go out for breakfast, lunch and dinner quite a lot, and it's great. It's just amazing. I mean, you have like spicy rice for breakfast kind of thing, and you have a thing called roti canai, which is like a buttery flatbread, and that's from the kind of South Indian style of things, and it's amazing. So for me, in a big nutshell, that's the kind of street food thing. It's like, it's so varied and everyone does it from all kind of walks of life, which is quite nice, and all kind of cultures and religions too. So
do you feel that in the west of Scotland, when you're opening somewhere like that, it might be, maybe not now, but at first that could be quite new to people?
Yeah,
so
totally.
I remember the first time I came across yourself was at the Barras Art and Design Centre. It was the Brooklyn Brewery pop-up.
That was great.
And you know, I think that I'm quite varied in my food taste, but I was like, what should I get here? I'm not really sure what that is.
Yeah.
And it seems very authentic, which is great, because I feel that here people are so guilty of going to a Chinese or an Indian and they're ordering something that you'll never see in China or in India.
Totally.
You know, so to come into somewhere like Scotland where people, not in a bad way, but can be quite naive and think that a Chinese food is curry sauce and chicken balls.
Totally.
You know.
Which I indulge in quite a lot, actually.
Of course, everyone does now and again. I feel that yours is very authentic, you know.
Yeah, I try and make it as much as possible, and like it's kind of based on what my mum would cook growing up. So like, I think also it's maybe more traditional than authentic, because I'll never try and like replicate, because you don't get the same type of garlic here, you don't get the same type of everything. So maybe even like we change like what veg you would use in something and use like a Scottish veg or whatever you can get your hands on. And for the start of it, we just used to have a couple of dishes in the street food thing. And one of the nicer things that have happened is you gain quite a lot of trust from customers going on the years and the millions of street food boxes that you give out at events. And it means that we have been able to put on quite obscure things, which I thought that maybe people would never eat in a million years. There's a thing called ikan bilis, which is dried anchovies, which I love, and I could eat them like crisps. They're like anchovies that have been sun-dried, so they're like very crispy and quite salty, so almost like a bar snack. And I love really kind of like overly fishy things like that. But you get people loving that here. It's amazing. And like from that being what people would maybe I guess the main Malaysian dish that people would recognise is satay, which is great. Also love it. Have a lot of time and love for a satay skewer. Now people are eating like all of the kind of various bits and bobs we brought along. And I mean, even
and
to
people
the
are becoming more educated and aware of what there is out there, isn't there? I think I'm still quite naive. If I was to come into you, I'd just say, right, what are you giving me? Like, just, and I'll try it, because you build that trust, as you said.
I think that's great though. I love it when, like you're saying, like people come in and they're just like, I have no idea what this is. Can you just kind of point out, I kind of like this and I kind of like this. So I always say to people, like, there'll probably be something on there that you like, even if you don't like spice, because I think we often get thought of as like really spicy kind of food in the restaurant, but you can get things that are quite mild. Like all the Nonya food, like the Chinese Malay food, is often quite like fresh, fragrant stir fries, so you don't have to get chili in it quite a lot. So yeah, it makes it quite interesting for people, so hopefully it can be inviting and not too scary.
I think it is, you know, I think it's really intriguing as well, and I think it's you said that food links to politics. I think that's absolutely spot on, and I think maybe the rise in these places popping up across Scotland and Glasgow is to do with more integration and to do with more people coming from overseas. It's great.
Quite aware. I even down to like travel programs. I think people are just becoming a bit more aware of like movement and food kind of thing. And we live, I guess the UK is so multicultural, and it's like very important for us to kind of relate back to where your curry came from in a takeaway on a Friday night kind of thing. So there's that really nice part of it where you are seeing, of course I wouldn't like to just pretend that there's no I guess, how would I put this, no racism out there, but there is definitely a bit of like a kind of awareness of culture, I think, happening in Glasgow, which is really nice.
I think you'd be very naive to say there's not. I've seen this week there was I don't know if you've seen it, the replies to the Sainsbury's tweet, the advert, and you like to think that isn't in Scotland, but there is an underlying thing there, and
definitely.
Is that something you've ever experienced?
I mean, actually I found it quite interesting because I get being half Malaysian, half Scottish. You've got love it that there's people screaming in the street in Glasgow every night.
The joys of recording in the East End.
Joys of it, I love it. But when I think being half Malaysian, half Scottish, and I actually don't think I look that Malaysian straight off. So I think actually I've experienced maybe quite a lot of fly in the wall racism. So almost like people maybe saying stuff around you that you're a bit like, oh, wait a minute, I don't think you realise. Which is actually, like, for me...
Do you think that's worse?
In some ways, yeah. In some ways, but then I guess when I probably just get a bit kind of vocal about it at that point, and so just kind of sit there silently and then maybe say something. But I think that's actually maybe how I experience it more, which is good because then it's not good, but it makes you realise that it's still out there kind of thing, and maybe I wouldn't have realised that in another circumstance. And I like to, I guess, and just with my mum coming over here kind of thing, I mean, I know other half Malaysian people in Glasgow who look way more Malaysian than I do kind of thing, but you don't feel any different, so...
And you shouldn't.
Totally. For that, I do find it quite interesting. I don't think the most I've experienced it has to be in taxis. It's been in quite a lot of taxis.
It's like that. I don't know if you've seen that Kevin Bridges sketch where he's saying like you go into a taxi and the guy's just always racist, and people just agree with him to shut them up, but
I know.
You shouldn't.
I'm always one who's a bit of a scrappy do and then end up saying something halfway through and having to get another taxi, which is a pain, but
I wonder if that's the job interview there,
totally.
Taxi driver, racist.
Please do not take them off.
No offence to any taxi drivers that are listening.
Actually, I've had so many lovely taxi drivers as well, just to say that for full disclaim, but I think that's where it happens the most. And my mum came over here in the 70s, and she came over, I just find the whole thing, I've obviously kind of followed her journey, and she came over here when she was 18 and she couldn't speak any English and she just had to learn really quickly. So she started studying in Leeds, and then she moved up to Glasgow after that, and she's worked for the NHS for, she's just retired actually, but for 45 years kind of thing. And she moved over at a time where I think Glasgow, I might be getting this wrong, but I think it's when the ice cream wars, I think I could be getting this completely wrong, but she used to kind of tell me these stories. She's a health visitor, so she would have to go to, I guess, quite a lot of deprived areas in Glasgow and go and I guess look after people's babies and give them kind of jags and stuff like that, the usual. But because she is this wonderful, bubbly soul, she just kind of got in there straight away, and I think people absolutely adored her for that. She's obviously experienced like a couple of kind of racist moments, but overall I think that kind of warmth is how she's integrated here, and she loves Glasgow so much, and she loves kind of working for the NHS, and she loves all of this stuff. So that's why I think I'm maybe more vocal about kind of putting down, I guess, getting out taxis halfway through just to say, no, I'm not getting out here because you've been racist. So it's a kind of personal connection for that, I would say.
That's great, the point that you make, about going into these deprived areas and being welcomed, because I often think that when you actually go into these deprived areas, I'm from Motherwell myself, and you meet people that stay in these housing schemes, they're usually very, very warm to other people around them and their neighbours. And I think that I had Sanjeev on the podcast, we spoke about that before, and he mentioned, not to take it back to Still Game, but his character, Naveed, represents so many people that are in these deprived areas, and you know, they're putting something back into the community.
Totally.
The way that your mum was being a health visitor, they're going into that community, and people respect that, you know, and they really appreciate it. Not to say that there's not racism there, but you know, a lot of the people that go into these communities are the beating heart of the community and making such a difference.
Exactly. I think that's when you see like the goodness in people too, kind of thing. Especially, actually, there's a very good point with Sanjeev's character being kind of representing so many people who embrace it.
I think of so many, you know, people who have got shops and communities that really are beating heartbeat there. There's a guy in Motherwell that, you know, he's an Asian shop owner, and people will go to him when they're skint at the end of the month and say, listen, can I pay you next week? And he'll be like, aye, that's fine.
Yeah,
and they've got that trust
that kind of rapport.
Aye.
I mean, my mum, she'll probably kill me for telling this story, but she I remember her telling me, she used to work in the East End of Glasgow for, I think, God, a good maybe 20 years of her career. And this is back when if you kind of parked up your car and you were seen to be of a different race, there's quite a good chance your car could get its window smashed or whatever, or something could happen. But I think because she was this bubbly woman who kind of made everyone laugh and was that kind of pillar of the community, she used to tell me that she used to have these really dodgy, probably quite prominent characters in Glasgow actually look after her car when she would go into the high-rise flats.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she used to have people kind of look out for her, and I think that, again, for me, that's just kind of the spirit of humans, like of just being nice and being lovely kind of thing. And
I think that's maybe a Glasgow thing as well.
It's quite a Glasgow story.
I always remember going to Celtic Park as for a Motherwell game years ago with my dad, and there was a wee boy in my part in the car, and he says, right, mister, I'll watch your car for £1. So like, and basically if you say no, your car's getting tanned.
I would take that.
You've not really got an option there. But it sounds like your mum did, and they were doing it for the right reasons rather than for a few quid.
And I think, and she used to come in and probably not understand the Celtic Rangers clash quite a lot and go in and poke fun at these probably quite big Glasgow gangsters if Celtic won and they were a Rangers fan kind of thing. And she's telling me these stories when I'm in my 20s and I'm going, oh my God,
why are you doing this?
But again, I kind of love that. I believe in that kind of spirit of things, like pushing you through. So
yeah, it's that Glasgow, you know, that no mean city, but there's a nice undercurrent to it as well, isn't there? You know, these people who are big tough gangsters have also got a soft side.
The gangsters in the world, probably the most charismatic ones too.
Your mum's putting herself in what people would see as a firing line, you know, getting that respect that she deserves, which is good to see.
Yeah, so she's always got the stories for that, so it's great.
That's so funny. I've heard you talk before about, you know, the industry that you're in is very male-led and male-dominant, and I suppose from someone with your background and being female, that must be challenging as well.
Yeah, and I think, God, I was actually just talking about this the other day, and we were just talking about this earlier, how I feel like I sometimes live in my own echo chamber now because the restaurant that I run, that's just not accepted kind of thing, and it's not been for now the 3 years that we've been open. So I guess being vocal about it has helped, but I kind of need to remind myself that that still happens in other kitchens. And yeah, I think, I mean, I actually obviously experience kind of cultural sexism as everyone does to an extent, but nothing like what you felt when I started working in the kitchen. I remember just being like, wait, what? This is totally medieval, like what's going on here kind of thing.
And beforehand you were in retail, is that right?
Yeah, I was in retail, and just didn't experience to that extent up until I started working in a kitchen. And I'm not a shouty person, nor will I ever be, and I've just kind of decided from the get-go I don't want to have to ever shout at anyone like that. There's no need to kind of thing. There's no need to have that culture in kitchens because, as I say, there's already hot, sharp, dangerous things all around you kind of thing. You don't want to have totally. All your chances of getting hurt just through your own stupidity is quite high anyway kind of thing. So yeah, I think having experienced a wee bit of that in my first job, just silly comments and pans and ladles throwing, which always makes someone look really silly, I think. I don't think you can ever look butch when you're throwing a ladle across a room. It just, it's not like a javelin. But anyway, so after kind of experience stuff like that, I think, and we were saying this earlier, I think I've laughed out the door if it's ever been in our doorstep kind of thing. And I mean, you hear of like things like, I guess this is maybe, and I don't want to generalise because I feel like places are kind of getting better, but the old and maybe still happening ways that I don't experience of chefs being quite misogynistic to front of house as well.
Okay.
And I think that's from the balance of there being far more male chefs kind of thing, and maybe in bigger kitchens and things like that. And then you have to question why is there more male chefs kind of thing. We've had quite a lot of female chefs apply with us, and I wonder whether that's because there's been a kind of an atmosphere of that kind of misogyny just won't be accepted kind of thing.
And I think you as well, it's testament to yourself, you've been outspoken about that, you've been in the media talking about that before, and it probably, girls would want to come into that environment and work with you.
Totally, and I hope that kind of happens everywhere, because like we've got some of the most amazing chefs, like they're just incredible, they have such a calm temperament, they're so creative, and I think you always get a moment in kitchens when you're just, everything's going wrong, you're one member of staff down, something's broken kind of thing. And we've just got this team that are just so kind of on the ball and so good at dealing with situations. And I couldn't imagine if you threw somebody into that mix who's a bit shouty and a bit panicky. And
it's not going to help, is it?
No, it's not going to help at all. So I hope that changes things a little bit, because I hate that kind of, I guess, like old misogynistic things of women belong in kitchens from the kind of, I guess, dark ages. But then it's like, where is that place in professional kitchens? If this is your horrible misogynistic view, then how does that work in kind of professionalism kind of thing? So yeah, hopefully that does change. And again, I just having a conversation with somebody who works front of house in quite a kind of big restaurant, and that was just 2 days ago or something. I kind of had this moment of going, oh my God, that still happens. I forgot. I need to kind of, and I think it's important to maybe do a bit more about that, and it's given me a bit of a wake up to be like, okay, actually, and not that I can change everything, but if being vocal about it helps, then that's maybe the way forward.
As I said, that people will see that and they want to work for people like yourself, or it will inspire other females to, so nice. Get out there and do that. I think it's really. I hope
so. I mean, and then, there's, I guess, places like Scran as well, where it's like you've got and I also, just actually to put a note on that, I don't think machoism is just from one gender. I've seen like that kind of fiery temper within women as well in kitchens. I think that just needs to stop, because I think that's come from the kind of old school French style kitchens at the beginning, where there's all these tiers of chef de partie and sous chef and everything. And
do you think, right, and this is maybe a stupid question from me because I've watched too much television, but do you think people like Gordon Ramsay, in these kitchen nightmares and these stereotypical kitchen shows make people think that's the way it should be? He's very shouty, and how much of that is for the TV? Or
I think so, because you always hear those stories about him, that he's very friendly and lovely in real life.
Exactly. And I wonder if that makes people that are coming through in the industry think, well, that's the way that you're meant to be. That's the way that the top chefs are doing this.
Totally, because I think anything that's televised is quite influential. So definitely, I think maybe that stuff like that needs to, I guess, be toned down by the media too, because then you've got, I guess, whenever you do think of a kitchen in a kind of, I'm even thinking of Ratatouille right now.
That's not what it is.
That kind of angry shit.
But that's what you think. I said to yourself and Chris beforehand, I says, I think of chefs as stressed out, smoking fags, raging all the time, shouting. It seems to me that the stereotypical chef is never happy. No. But any chef that I meet seems quite chilled.
Totally. And I'd like to think that this is this new wave, and hopefully it does change. Like we don't actually have a system of like head chef, sous chef, chef de partie, because I feel like also in the Kopitiam we don't have a kitchen porter, which is the person who does the dishes and all the peelings and potatoes and all the kind of jobs that you don't want to do.
Is that because you want everyone pulling together?
Yeah, of course. And like being admitting of my own kind of organised chaos, of course at the beginning that's a bit of like a funny thing to do, but I think the exercise of everyone doing the dishes, of everyone mopping the floor, of everyone doing the jobs that you have to do is just a better way of doing it.
It almost creates a better environment. You take away that hierarchy,
Exactly.
I always think that in all jobs you shouldn't ask someone to do something that you wouldn't do yourself.
Totally. And
maybe historically in chefing, that's the way it's been. It almost is like, here's your head chef, and that's just the person that washes the dishes. And
I mean, if I can't unblock the toilet, then nobody else should have to, kind of thing.
Exactly.
So I just think that it kind of helps take away that hierarchy in kitchens, which is maybe where some of the kind of machoism comes from as well. So yeah, it'd be nice if that could go, and I'm pretty sure we would get better food for it as well. I think everyone would benefit. I think there'd be a lot more calm time and creative time too, so I think it's quite important.
You mentioned television being very influential, and you've not been shy on the telly yourself.
No, I mean, it's when did this begin? From MasterChef back in 2014, and I was a 22-year-old bear, and I was very scared and hadn't ever worked in a professional kitchen. Went down, met John and Greg, and I think from there on in, that's what kind of spurred me on to obviously open the kitchen and everything. But yeah, I've actually done some media work now, and I think I enjoy it because I just talk so much. Probably talk the face of everyone, so that's maybe part of it, and I think that's quite a Glaswegian thing as well,
100%.
when you just talk and talk and talk kind of thing. So yeah, I really enjoyed doing it, and again, like, you do the odd job where you're like, right, okay, we're talking about a bit of a controversial subject today, and maybe I'm putting the neck out on the line a wee bit here, but at least I can say I've kind of spoke my mind on it. So it's been a really nice platform to be able to do that. I feel really privileged that anyone's even asked me how I feel about these things. So yeah, it's been a very kind of lovely path with it.
You know, not to compare MasterChef to something like Love Island, but I feel that people go on these TV shows and it's almost like two separate paths. You know, it's like, I feel that people would, no disrespect to everyone that's on Love Island, because I'm sure there's some very talented people out there.
I've never watched
But you know, you get these reality TV shows where I think people jump on them and expect to make a career of it. But yours is the opposite. You know, you've went on something, you've showcased a talent, and ultimately out the back of that, you know, it's really been rewarding by the looks of it.
That's lovely. I'm feeling very overwhelmed here.
Is that something that you would say before you went on, you thought, do you know that this might kick me on?
I have no idea. That kind of like 6 months of my life, I feel like, was quite a blur. I got the call to say that you've got through to the next round. And I think I was in an airport actually. I was just on my way to go on holiday, and I think I could hear the tannoy in the background, and I'm going, what on earth is going on here? And yeah, went down and did it. Oh, and then I just remember I have never sweated like that in my entire life. I mean, like, beads of sweat, just disgusting down there in this professional kitchen.
Because not only are you cooking, it's on telly, it's in front of the nation.
Yeah,
you know,
totally. I remember just looking at my hand and it was just shaking, and I was like, right, okay, just hold it down, then it's going to be fine. And I remember watching MasterChef and seeing people shake away kind of thing.
And you're like, why are they doing that?
Yeah,
and then
totally.
you're in that position.
Yeah. And I never had a clue what was going to happen after. I actually went back to my job in retail for a while after MasterChef, and started writing recipes and doing a really kind of terrible blog. I was not very good at that whole blog thing, and then decided that I was like, wait a minute, I can't keep on writing about food and doing that if I don't know how a kitchen works. I want to kind of learn more about it. So that's kind of how it happened, I guess. Again, I'm quite of a sporadic person, I guess, and that's how it's all come about. I've just been like, maybe we could do this next week, maybe that'd be quite a fun thing. So yeah, it's just been I feel very fortunate to be where I am now with it. It all kind of makes sense now. At the time, I remember just being like, what on earth is going on? How am I doing this?
It seems from there as well, you know, you've had a great balance of, you know, opening up your own restaurant and also, you know, doing some journalist work as well, and having your own show. And
I really I just love writing. I love chatting to people. I think that's my main thing. I've always loved the kind of social aspect of jobs. So, and I think the hospitality industry really gives you that ability to still be social kind of thing every day. I think if I lived with anyone and I hadn't spoken to anyone all day, they would probably move out because they'd be like, shut up, Julie, you've just been talking all night. So, it's just been a kind of very fortunate path of lots of different bits and bobs of work, and it'd be quite nice just to see where that goes, and just maybe keep on being a bit controversial and upsetting a couple of people. But I guess that's part of the fun of it, of just kind of seeing.
I think, why would you not be yourself? You know, and that's it. I think that's probably testament to yourself, is why you've done so well as you have been yourself. You know, it's shone through.
Thank you.
Where does the future lie then? What's in the pipeline?
I barely know what's happening tomorrow, to be honest. Right. But no, I think that I've always wanted to kind of get into teaching cooking and writing a bit more, and now that we've got the Kopitiam, it's been quite nice actually. We did a pop-up in the Asa Bar in SWG3 for about a year, and that was great, and it was amazing just to kind of like see how like a bigger kitchen works and a bigger restaurant. And
You got the taste for it now.
do you know what I do? And I really loved it, but I think over this time I'm actually just so looking forward to like having a bit of time in our little Kopitiam Southside, because that's like our little hub, as small as it is, and it's starting to kind of do a bit more writing and just work with the chefs again, kind of thing, and develop recipes.
Brilliant.
I mean, like, it's so fun, like having a team like this. I just feel so fortunate because we can go in every day and like make up a new special, and everyone's so creative. I actually get overwhelmed sometimes because they send me photos of what they've been cooking that day when I've had a day off, and it's just amazing.
And it's almost full circle. It's like you're going across the road learning your trade, and now you're there teaching other people.
Totally, which is just crazy. So it's just been a very nice journey, and just I'm looking forward to see obviously what happens when lockdown ends. I'm going to say when, not if, because I think it's important to be optimistic about it, and just seeing what the kind of climate looks like then. Just enjoying seeing people properly
100%.
again, and then figuring it out from there. But
And would you do your own cook school? Are you doing that just now? Is that something that you're looking into?
yeah, actually we've done a couple of lockdown videos
Okay.
from my kitchen, which looks like it's a terrible kitchen. It's got tartan wallpaper and everything. It's awful, but that's the kind of reality of it, the new normal, I guess. So just doing stuff like that, and I think I'd quite like to open up a couple of places that just specialise in one thing. So that's the kind of hopeful plan for next year at some point when it's all come down a little bit. But again, just keeping it into small places that are quite personal and nothing too kind of big and chaotic. I don't think I could handle it. I think just small kind of personal places for me would be nice.
Brilliant. Where can folk check out yourself and the Kopitiams? Obviously in the south side, Shawlands, you'd say, wouldn't you?
Do a bit of self-blogging.
Yeah.
So in Shawlands we've got the Kopitiam, and we're just doing takeaway and stuff at the moment, and it's nice. And actually, again, it's kind of going back to the street food routes that I was talking to you about in Malaysia. So we're having a kind of opportunity to do these kind of fried noodles in boxes, and I really like that kind of going back to the basics kind
It's
of
that
vibe.
authentic.
Yeah,
that
it's
you're
really
talking
nice
about,
actually. So we're just doing that, and I've got a wee website now which I built myself, which I'm very proud of, so I'm going to pick myself up for that because I'm not very
Was that a
technical.
lockdown project?
It took me so long, and it's not that advanced, but I'm very proud of it. So we have a website now, so we are now with the future generations. So that's quite good. Yes, so we'll be open for 7 days up until kind of our Christmas time, and then we'll just see what happens after that, and hopefully we'll all be out of lockdown then too.
Good. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much
It's been
for
an
having me
absolute
on.
pleasure, and
Very
I'm
nice
absolutely
talking
starving now after talking about that.
Let's get some noodles.
I know, totally. Thank you to everyone who has tuned in to this episode of the DW podcast. If you've not, please like and subscribe, and check out some previous episodes as well. Thanks.